And yeah, we are live. Thank you for joining today's live Q&A after 2 weeks of break. Basically, we're at some WordCamps, and we also gave a talk. Before we jump into today's discussion, a quick heads up about the latest release of one of our plugins, WP2FA. Basically, in this update, we included a new feature called Zero Setup Email to FA, which basically allows administrators to enable email to FA for users without any user interaction. So once users are created, they are automatically set up with 2FA. That's all about it in terms of how we do this every Thursday live, apart from some short breaks from time to time, but we do this every Thursday. We're streamed live, so if you have any questions about what we will be speaking today, please feel free to ask us. Today, with me, I have Marcel Tannich. Am I pronouncing it correctly, Marcel?
Hi, yes, it's correct.
Good to know. So yeah, Marcel, you're a WordCamp speaker, also organizer, and you've worked a lot, of course, with automation, WP-CLI. You gave a talk at WordCamp Europe. That's how I found out about you, and I was learning what you do. But for those who do not know you, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, first of all, thanks for having me. Great to be on the Melapress Show. And yeah, for the people who don't know me, I'm quite a big fan of automation-related topics, WP-CLI, console topics, and I really enjoy to teach them to the beginners of WordPress or people who are might not confident or might be even a bit afraid. So I try to focus on some specific topics and make it enjoyable for the people so they can gain with some real experiences, with some real use cases, and learn about this. Yeah, I work for OnTheGoSystems. I'm running as a team lead of a support team for WPML. As I mentioned, I'm an organizer. I was in the past at WordCamp Europe in 2023 in the content team. I was volunteer. I was speaker in 2021. So every year, like I have trying to have a different role. And currently, I'm also active as a co-organizer of WordCamp Vienna. So next year we have our 10 years anniversary, so we will have also a great event there if somebody wants to come. And yeah, that's quite everything for me.
Good. Nice promotion. Actually, I would be interested to come to WordCamp Vienna because when WordCamp Europe was held in Vienna, I couldn't make it. I've been to all WordCamp Europe apart from Vienna and Spain. So yeah, but I missed the one in Austria. So I'd like to come. It's also quite interesting because I did volunteer in the past and I did co-organize as well. But I never thought about taking different roles in different positions to try new things. I was always like, okay, I usually know how to do this, so I'll stick to what I do. It's quite a good approach, actually.
Yeah, you learn different people, of course, and you learn everything around the event.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's a very good move actually, and it's also it keeps it interesting for you because you're always doing something a bit different. So you are seeing the event from a different angle, kind of thing. So that's quite interesting. Before we dive into technicalities, your talk at WordCamp Europe was of course about automation, and you also will talk about it, of course, today. Apart from AI, which I think almost all listeners know about, but you also mention a lot WP-CLI and bash scripts. So before we dive into the subject, like for someone who has never touched the command line, like what is WP-CLI and what are bash scripts?
Okay, let me explain. So the command line is just a simply text-based way to talk with your WordPress installation, with your computer, or with your server. And instead of clicking the buttons, you can automate it on the command line. Or what you can also do that you just type the commands or using scripts to interfere with them. So you have actually full control of everything what happened on your installation, on your server. And the thing is, it's basically just another user interface. It's an alternative that is much more faster and sometimes even more precise because you can run actions that are repeatable.
Interesting. In fact, I was at the last WordCamp I was in WordCamp Gdynia. I was talking, I think, to Tim Nash, and we were talking about this because many people nowadays are so used to an interface. However, like in reality, back in my days, I used to be a web administrator, and we used to manage both Microsoft's IIS server, which is a web server with with an interface, and Apache, which is a text file, a config file. And funnily enough, people might think that with an interface, it's more flexible. However, the reality is with a text file, it's way more flexible because it's just about using the directive. However, and you're much faster. With IIS, I remember, you have to know where certain buttons are. You have to enable some registry keys to show some settings. So yeah, it's funny because we're moving towards AI. However, the most basic way of interfacing with computers, which is command line, just writing actual commands, is usually much more effective. No, it gives you more flexibility, kind of thing, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And the same goes for WP-CLI. That's basically the WordPress internal command line tool. And pretty much everything you can do in WordPress in the admin panel, you can also do in the command line. There's some specific commands that are only available as a WP-CLI command, what you can't do in the backend. But it's, for example, if you open the famous black terminal window, what you've probably seen in the hacker movies or whatever, and you, for example, just say WP plugin install WooCommerce -- activate, it's actually installing the plugin for you. So you don't have to go to plugins, all plugins, search for it, click, wait until it's downloaded, and then activate it. You just save that 4 or 5 steps by just typing. And that's actually the beauty of WP-CLI.
Yeah, and with one command, or like by chaining some commands, you can get, like as you said, 5 actions. Instead of clicking and waiting, you can just let it run. And of course, it's good to automate as well. So we can do that on a mass on a number of websites. For those who are new, like from where can people like start for the non-developers kind of thing? How approachable is WP-CLI, and from where they can start to get an idea of what it is and how to use it?
I would say they're actually more approachable than most of the people think, because at first the command line looks like intimidating, like you used to say, the black window with the blinking cursor. But actually, I feel that the learning curve seems to be quite straightforward for the most people. So even if you never use the command line, I would recommend you to use WP-CLI as maybe as the first step, because if you really list all the installed plugin, or you just install a plugin by a command, you get like a feeling for it. And then once you are inside it, you can then switch to the part of the operating system or your own computer. You know, for example, installing a program on your Mac with Homebrew, for example, or listing files with ls. Maybe that is then as best the next step what you can do. So try to first focus on something that really gives you an output, and then hopefully it motivates you to go more far.
Good. And of course, the idea behind these tools, which we are kind of already mentioned, is like it allows for more automation. So to give a bit more context to the users, let's go a bit back. Like, why, if you just have one website, for example, most probably you don't need much automation, but like to give more context to the user, like why would one need to automate the setup of WordPress websites or certain actions on websites?
Yeah, I mean, if you have just one installation, of course, there are many steps that are not needed, but you can run backups, you can make changes, for example, or refresh permalinks. But I always say, like, the 5 minutes installation of WordPress is nice, but the 5-second one is even better. So you can, of course, use different things and automate it and make it for you reproducible and maybe less error prone, because you can, let's say you're running a script, you're downloading your database, you have a confirmation that it works, you have it on your computer, and then the task is finished. You know, you don't have to go in a plugin, click, and then wait until something is finished, like the action is done. You can just automate it, and that might give anyone the reason to really do that. It's like a huge advantage if you are freelance or agency spinning up sites to have like this constant pattern guaranteeing everything is the same, and it's making the life for you much more easier.
Nice. And especially nowadays, the last year or two, there's this big hype or actual value with AI, because of course AI allows for more automation. So moving from scripting to AI powered tools, what changes in terms of automation, and what things can you do once AI enters in the mix, basically?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest change is that once you start to develop something, you don't have to start anymore with the blank page. You know, back in the day when, for example, I started to work with PHP, everything was created from scratch. You start by the HTML tag, you start to set up the servers. But of course, with tools like WordPress, this changed over the time. Now you have a web hoster, you have like a one-click button installation with Scripticus or whatever, and the installation is already done. So AI, most likely now it's just changing the way how you need to know the commands and the sequences before you start doing anything.
I see. So yeah, okay. Yeah.
We might can even add in this, like, for example, that now with the AI, we are going in the way that we are describing what we want and not anymore try to, how we should say, define the functionality. You know, you say, I wanted a button on my website on the right corner, and the AI will do it for you. That's maybe like a good way to get started.
So do you think there will be kind of like also a bypass of WP-CLI and just write an AI, like the actual prompt, what you need, not the actual commands, like, oh, I want a website, which automatically kind of like connects to WordPress, and that will bypass the WP-CLI? Are we getting there, you think, or how do you see it?
Yes, because this is one of probably one of the next topics we can maybe go like that later in deeper. Now that we have integration between WP-CLI and the AI models, for example, via MCP server, the connection is now there. So we can, as next, communicate with our installations via the command line and via AI tools.
Interesting. Yeah. In fact, in your presentation, you also mentioned tools like Replit, like for speeding and prototyping things, speeding up prototyping, basically.
Yes.
Can you give us a concrete example of maybe something you built or you've seen, basically, that was built in minutes and automated in minutes, where would typically would have taken days to complete?
We can also start with the example I gave on the WordCamp Europe talk. So, for example, I had the idea based on my experiences with the WP-CLI workshops and talks that it may be easy for the beginners to have like a graphical interface that gives you the output of the WP-CLI commands. So I started creating it, but you know, like all the programs you have and all the projects, you start something and you never finish it. And then once the AI was like good enough, I was like thinking, what actually if the AI could make this example for me, so I can highlight this as an use case in my talk. So I used the AI with Vercel v0 to generate the front end of an app written in TypeScript, where people just have the checkboxes, and then this will generate the config and the script you can use for your own automation. And this is like a combination because you can have like different functionality. For example, I had like one button that will start the website with the plugins and the selected template in the WordPress Playground instance. So people can like get this as a boilerplate, for example, to use it for their own projects, or when you want to debug something as a starter case for an agency. So it's something actually really nice for the prototyping. Or I had also different examples, not it's related to WordPress. For example, in the beginning of the year, I was making a quite strict keto diet. And I was like, I want to see which kind of food can I eat and which not. So, you know, in 15 minutes, I had like an app with the food and the color and the nutritious fact. And then it helps me to lose in very short time. This is kind of thing that you can use this as an integration in your daily work and automate or create tools or help us for everything what you want much more faster.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely. I've seen as well a few examples where people are using AI for personal use. I was listening to a podcast lately, and this person was talking on how they use AI for the children's pocket money. So they have a number of chores, they give them a value basically, and every week it calculates, okay, which chores have you done, how many hours, and
Exactly.
kind of like calculate the pocket money without having any discussion of why and what. So like, it's here, you've done these many hours, you've done the dishes, you've done this, so this is your pocket money for this week.
Exactly.
And yeah, with things like Replit, basically, you can spin up something like that within maximum 1 hour, right? I mean,
it's really fast, and especially now that tools like Replit also have the functionality to have the integration for the AI agents. There's basically no limit. You can create now bots for Slack, for Telegram, for other tools and integration. So it's like it's getting the possibility for automation is like incredibly increasing for everything what is connected in our world.
interesting. And as a WordPress developer, you and also like anyone who develops plugin, especially if you're still a small team, typically as a developer, you end up doing support yourself. So do you see like AI helping with support, for example, I don't know, like setting up, because when you have customers, it's very normal. You are helping customers who have problems with your plugin, but every customer is different because in one website, your plugin is running alongside plugins X and Y. On the other website, it's running alongside plugins A and B, for example. So
Exactly.
Do you see like AI helping also like with support in general, like reproducing issues and stuff like that?
Yes, absolutely. I see it directly also in my own support team, and it's really great to see if you make the usage correct, what kind of return you can get. And it's actually really nice. So for example, in support, you have always different problems, like the context that the people are not describing, that you can't reproduce some issues. And for this kind of things, you can sometimes use it to create like helper tools or maybe scripts for database, for example, to analyze things and give you maybe like a first confirmation for a suspicion of what you have about an issue, and you can solve it much more faster.
Interesting. Do you see also AI maybe being used maybe as well, like analyzing debug logs or stuff like that, like doing some sort
Yes.
of debugging or?
Yes, I already started that, doing it quite actually a long time ago. And I had just had recently a case like 2 weeks ago where a staging site from a client kept crashing with a fatal error in one of our plugin streams. And I was like, okay, I can't see what's going on. I don't have SSH access. I have to try the old school way, like digging deeper. And then I just had like the error log, a suspicion, and then I started to just team up with the AI to really analyze the logs, and then we went over the code, what might happen, and then I just basically found some broken attachment meta fields, and AI helped me to identify it, to write the correct script, to delete the 57 affected meta entries. And it was perfectly fine and solved in very short time. And this kind of usage is actually maybe the kind of usage outside of the hype, because you can follow the hype, or then you really use it for your own purpose on something that is really useful, that's solving a problem. The client was very happy to identify, and he told me that he would never think that this might be the issue. And for something like this, AI is working pretty well.
Interesting. And it's funny because like people are kind of like it depends whom, but many people are either afraid of AI. First of all, it's very important to point out that there's a difference between, of course, using AI blindly and using
Exactly.
AI as a tool to help you. So
Exactly.
for many support people, AI might be kind of like overwhelming. If you have to give like a few tips, like from where should they start, or which is like the most basic implementation and use of AI in support, so they can start using it that way and then start learning on it. Like how, from where should they start, kind of thing.
Yeah. What works pretty well is analyzing logs. That is quite good. Maybe creating also workarounds, PHP workarounds if they are needed. But of course, always test them first in a staging site, ensure that everything is fine. Don't blindly trust. Don't trust because in the sense of hallucination, it might invent functions or commands that even don't exist. So you need to know what you are doing. You just try to do it faster. You're not blindly trust it and take it over. You have to know what actually is real and what not. Otherwise, you can get in serious issues and you might break your site. So this is something also to keep in mind. I recently read a quote and I really liked it because it say AI is really useful for the people who can solve actually without AI. And that's actually on the point, because if you know what you are doing, it's just another tool in your toolbox, but it's not the solution for everything.
It makes sense. In fact, a few episodes ago, I forgot what's his name. We had someone who's building a plugin completely with AI, and this is what he was saying. Because of course, in the community, you get a lot of pushback, like, "Oh, we still need developers." Some people who are, it's almost like there are two extremes: people who are like full AI and people who are against AI. And that is exactly what he was explaining. Now, it's not just about writing a prompt, getting code, copy and paste, and shipping it. It's so you still need to understand what's happening, why and what. And of course, as you said, it can hallucinate, so it's good to at least
Exactly.
have a good idea from
Yeah.
it is. But just to confirm, so analyzing logs, but then of course, you are also uploading the code of the plugin, right, to AI. So it can make a context between, okay, this is what I'm seeing in the logs and this is where it's the code, right? Or it's more.
Yeah, you can sometimes, like for example, the stack trace, but if you have a line of code from your own plugin to say, make an identification like a type error or whatever, then it's also helpful to analyze it and then dig deeper until you might see without the AI what is the issue, because you just make like the connecting of the patterns, and this helps also in support to really see like what's going on, because sometimes the error is not let's say the error is caused in your plugin, but maybe your plugin is not the root cause of it. It's maybe like another plugin using the same functionality or the same function, and then you have a conflict. But if one of them is off, deactivated, you might see the error only in your own code. So for these kind of things, it's actually pretty helpful.
Yeah, in fact, I think that's one of the biggest headaches usually, right? I mean, like from support from our team, that's what we see as well. When, as you're saying, when the source of the issue is not exactly your plugin, because of something else, your plugin is spitting out some errors, but it becomes quite complex, right? To kind of like try
Exactly.
to this way.
Yes.
And AI, of course, helps you speed up these type of processes. Earlier, in fact, you said like we might dive deeper because you mentioned, yeah, like kind of like almost bypassing WP-CLI. And of course, yeah, like AI agents are a thing now, and we see integrations between AI agents via MCP servers and running commands and making changes. Just to get a brief idea, what would that look like in a WordPress context, like having AI agents, MCP running, and stuff like that?
There are many possibilities right now because we're having more different tools and integration coming. But maybe before we dig into the WordPress context, maybe let's see it more basic that the most people can follow it. For example, we have a service, a website like Ahrefs for SEO analysis, and we have an AI tool like, for example, Claude, which is the LLM. And what they, for example, now offer, Ahrefs gives you the possibility to have an MCP server, and then Claude can connect with this together. So you have MCP speaking to Claude from the Ahrefs website, and then you can ask the AI things about your specific data, what they have listed in their platform. That's maybe like for the basic understanding how this is working. And then for the WordPress context, this is all now a little bit changing because in WordPress we have now many different integrations and tools, and we need servers to communicate with WP-CLI. We need servers to communicate with, for example, the website itself. Yesterday I saw a new tool that can communicate with the plugin repository. So you can ask specific questions like, is there existing a plugin? What do this and this with identical code like mine to really see if there's a niche to develop something new. It's also like a really interesting use case to develop something for WordPress in that way. And basically what with WordPress you would allow is to communicate the AI with WordPress with your own data. Give me an overview for my orders for the last 24 hours. For example, this is something what you can ask in a natural human language. Give me the sales data, for example, which kind of users registered in the last week. All of these kind of things you can ask the AI then.
For those who have concerns, especially as you said, like give me the sales for the last 24 hours or what was the trend for the last sales for the last few weeks, how concerned or not should people be about? Because of course, if you give access to AI agent, it's reading your data. How concerned should they be with their data?
The biggest problem now, what all the tools are trying to solve, is like the permission and the capabilities to really see what is allowed to read and what is allowed to write. And that's right now one of the biggest problems, because if you just, for example, install this Ahrefs MCP server, you have to give permission for everything. And yeah, that's right now it's still a little bit like weird, and I also don't fully trust everything yet. But that's most likely the way how it will go. And there are coming now also new protocols which looks even more scared. Like, for example, a new protocol that allow purchasing products directly from the AI. Of course, I would not enter my credit card data there, but you know, we also were wondering many years ago if we might never, I don't know, access a website from a mobile device. You know, this was also things change.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, especially when it comes to data. Do you think like the type of access an AI agent has, is it something that should be fixed in AI or in WordPress? The reason why I'm asking this is because when you speak to people, especially the security people who work in the software industry but outside WordPress, they always kind of like look down on WordPress simply because of the structure, the way it works. Because right now, for example, if you look at Windows or Linux, when you install a software, you actually can specify what type of access it gets to the OS, with which APIs it can interact on. Now, in WordPress, it's a bit different. I understand it's an application, of course, but once you install a plugin, it has full access, kind of thing. So in this, ties in like with this question, like as well as AI. Do you think it's something that should be kind of like added in AI, or it's something that maybe we should start to get it from the WordPress point of view and see if we can fix something there?
I would personally prefer it from the WordPress point, because I want to have the control over the data, and that's most likely one of the main reasons we are actually using WordPress, because we want to have the control what's happening and who can get information. You know, if let's say if I don't want that people can get my user ID, I will block my REST API because I can't. You know, I have full control of everything. If another platform wants that the REST API is open, then okay, I don't have to use it. But the kind of data liberation for this is WordPress great. We should control what we want to give people access. And another AI agent or another bot is something what I can block out if I don't want. Maybe specific countries or specific companies I don't want to have my information. I can control what I want to block.
Interesting. Of course, I understand your point. I'm not expecting a solution, but if you had to kind of like envision a solution for this, like giving an AI agent or something automated access to your WordPress through the REST API, how do you see it's like a solution where you can control which which parts of the data or which parts of the REST API can access, which one endpoints, for example, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's right now it's still a little bit early, because most of the permission right now is handled on the specific MCP servers that are making the connection. So we don't have yet full control over that. But I really hope that maybe the AI is changing in the way that it's something what the end users can decide, the owners of the platforms, to see what they want to give access. I can, of course, now go to Cloud and revoke access for writing or for reading specific information. But yeah, it's still not really clear. You know, you need to know the exact endpoints. You need to know maybe even in some kind of function language to really understand what you're giving for capabilities to your system and what you are allowing. It's a bit too technical maybe yet.
It is, yes. In fact, yeah, automation kind of also introduces a number of risks. So, for example, if you spin up an entire website automatically or 100 websites, you can also, unfortunately, mass produce broken or insecure websites. Or like the same with AI agents, giving them access to your data. Like, what safeguards should there be? You think, or are there any safeguards already? Kind of, is there something that users can already use and benefit from?
Yeah, of course, it should absolutely not replace the security best practice. You should be really critic in what you're doing, but especially, for example, let's say like a website. Many people spin up a website anyway via the hosting. They have already like a basic security, like a basic platform running that is taking care for one specific point. Because I don't think so that the people who don't know anything about the best practice will now rent a DigitalOcean server, spin up a server from scratch, and then don't make any security hardening. That's probably like really uncommon that people will do that. That people will know what they do. So I can follow some kind of an automation via AI or via scripting or with WP-CLI, whatever. But I most likely will not have the really risk, because I just follow something that I would do manually. So why should I have more security issues if I just automate my own steps? You know, my own knowledge, my own steps, my own security functions. I just replicate this in a way that it's faster. I'm not giving it completely away to something.
Interesting. This is all interesting, and of course, there are a lot of opportunities here when it comes to AI. However, my concern, because I deal with people like this myself, like unfortunately, many website owners don't even know who their host is or what FTP means, or SSH or all these things. To avoid making certain mistakes and just running away, and because AI is a bit like a double-edged sword, you know, like it can be used for good things and also bad things. To avoid making like certain mistakes, from where do you recommend people should get started, especially people who are they are running a website, they literally know about cPanel, that's all, and or maybe they just know about their login page in WordPress. Where, if someone says like, from where should they start to get an idea of what's available out there, what they can do, and etc., get informed?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because it would be great if that kind of people would not have to worry about that. Let's say, for example, why is Shopify so successful? Because you don't have to worry about a coding language version, FTP access, staging sites. It's something what you just have to not worry about. You log in from a mobile app and you control your business directly from the interface, from the app. And that's great. And I see it a little bit in WordPress that maybe in the future of automation, something like this has to be more invisible. Like, for example, instead of asking to run people a script via SSH or whatever, the hosting platform maybe can integrate this. Let's say I mentioned before the staging sites. If a web host is offering staging, I already see this as a form of automation. You're saving your end client, the hosting client, time and knowledge to spin up a new installation, for example. That's great. That's like a functionality that is really evolved good in the last years, that people can follow a best practice like security, having different sites for production, development, for testing, to have like different separations. And that's maybe the beauty now in coming in the AI, that we might automate this all a little bit better.
So do you actually see, it's quite interesting. So do you actually see web hosts, like the web host, having a web host being fully with agents and similar things and solutions? Do you think it can be fully automated so people don't have, as you said, to worry about cPanel or create, like they can imagine you pay for a post account and all you get is a prompt, basically, like, okay, build this website, please install this theme, or please add this, please give access to the developer. Do you think we can get there, and so people just have to actually write and don't have to know about cPanel, SSH, and all these stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we already see like the first integrations, for example, from WordPress.com, from the hosted version. They have already like an AI chat what you can use to help spinning up a new site based on, I need this functionality, I need this plugin, and then it's even creating you the design in a way. So yeah, that's definitely will come more and more, and the web hosts definitely also will start to integrate this. It's like you might not have to worry about anymore what is happening behind the curtains, because you're just getting the end result. You have a site running, a functionality running, and everything which is too technical might be in the hosting or maybe even in other services.
Interesting. Do you think that makes life easier for WordPress developers or harder? Because of course, if you look at the web host, you are making it way easier, for example, because you just have a prompt. However, like when there are problems, then like who's going to deal with the developers? Okay, which plugins? How do you think this would work?
That will definitely get more difficult, because who really takes then the responsibility? But of course, if you're running a website on a platform from your hoster, most likely the support from the hoster is taking over that step. But if you do it for yourself with a tool, maybe you find on GitHub, or you don't have control of it, then of course it will really get difficult. But I see right now more and more that automations are coming into our daily workflows, and I see it really nice how the things are changing. I can give, for example, one really nice example is a new service what we created at OnTheGoSystems. It's called a PTC, the Private Translation Cloud. And you, as somebody who maintain a lot of plugins, you know probably the struggle about the translation. And we had the same problem, that we start creating many different plugins. And always when you have a new version, you have a problem to get in touch with the project manager, get in touch with the translator. And that back and forth is actually blocking the time what you should invest in developing the solutions for your clients. So what we did also now is we created a service that is taking away the translation and integrated in automation itself. So for example, what we have in that service is that you can connect your GitHub repository, and we are making in the backend, in the backend, automated in the background the translation for your plugin, and we are sending it back by a merge request. So the only thing what you have to do is check the merge request and see if you agree or not. If you agree, it will be already translated inside of your code. And that's actually something nice, because it's happening in the background. You don't have to worry about it, and you just get the end result. It's a little bit maybe following this, what I mentioned before with Shopify, that the automation is coming more in the way that you should not see it anymore.
It makes sense, but there's the risk of having more users who are not aware of the processes in the background. So of course, you're going to have more website owners which have even less knowledge about the website, which it's all good, quite frankly, because it opens the door for many people, and you don't have to be technical to have a website. But also, it makes support in the background like much more difficult, then, because like you go to deal with someone who absolutely have no idea what a website is. He just knows they just know the prompt basically, and
exactly. Yeah. In the way what I mentioned, the service focus on developers who don't have to worry about to have this back and forth with the people, but the end users who, for example, go to a web hoster and just want to get something running, for them will be difficult because they really need to know who is the correct person, what is the correct thing. They maybe even don't know, for example, where the domain is hosted, if it's from another provider, for example. Let's say, does your end client know that you as the developers are using Cloudflare, for example? Many people probably even will not know that. So that can be a problem, because who is then responsible for updating my records if I want to switch my email? Who is responsible if I want to add like a verification for Google Analytics, for example? So it's probably becoming more difficult for the people who don't absolutely know nothing about the technology.
Yes, it's almost sounds like there will be a bigger divide, as in like people who know the technology will run much faster, and those who have absolutely no idea will struggle even more, most probably.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting, and there are a lot of course of scenarios, where AI can be used. It's very interesting, and we are definitely, because I'm seeing it myself as well, like the rate of development of some things and stuff will really moving really fast in everything, in every direction, not just development. In fact, WordPress itself, as in like the foundation, the WordPress core, in May 2025, the new WordPress AI team was announced. What has been the progress so far? Let's start from of the team.
Actually, they created a really tons of great tools and integrations, which we are now happening to see connecting everything together. So, for example, we had like the PHP API client, the AI client. This was like an SDK to allow WordPress to talk via an API with the LLM models. That's like one of the most basics we needed for everything what is happening. Then there was the Abilities API, which is like allowing, for example, a plugin or a template to provide like the abilities in a machine declarable way. This is like then later needed for the MCP server. And then especially for MCP, the MCP adapter. This is like what bridges the Abilities API to the MCP. And then it allows like the AI to discover the things what are happening on your site. As I mentioned before, to get like the user data, to get like the list of people who signed up, these kind of things it will allow. And they have like a lots of different reference integrations and experiments. Like, for example, there's like an AI command for WP-CLI, some sample services. And it's, they are like building the blocks for the future and allowing more and more services to use this specified way of AI in WordPress.
Nice. So basically, I'm not sure if it's accurate, but long term, it seems that if a plugin needs to use AI, you don't have to have different integrations for different plugins. There would be a layer available in WordPress core, and the plugin can talk to WordPress core to talk to another LLM, right? Kind of thing.
Yes, like you don't have to define the connector, because there will be already like a basic connector.
Yeah, and the user, the owner of WordPress, of that WordPress instance, can control, okay, I want to work with ChatGPT or Claude, whatever, and then the plugin just connects to that connector. Yeah, makes sense.
Exactly.
And what is the long-term plan of the WordPress AI team?
According to the roadmap, what they have on the make.wordpress.com, so they said that they want to have like the AI building project and allow the AI infrastructure for WordPress for future, that plugins, templates can declare the same and then use it in different way. For example, if they declare what is allowed, maybe in future, then the AI agents can access that data in the standardized way. That's more like the long-term goal, to define what people in future actually can really do with this kind of services.
Interesting. We're talking a lot about AI, of course, and what developers, like the plugin developers and Teams developers, can do. Is there like any place for AI or are there any benefits for the actual users themselves, as in like the user who just setting up a website, buying the plugins and setting up a website, but they're not developing things themselves?
It's actually really interesting because it's true that now in the beginning, it was really more focusing on the person who is creating the project, the website, and not on the end user. But we are now seeing, let's say, for example, there's a new tool from Automatic called Telex, which allows you to generate blogs via prompt input. And maybe if you're now, let's say you are a food blogger and you just need a specific functionality to have like a button where you add a link and have an icon, maybe you need not anymore the developer to create that for you. You can do it now yourself. But of course, that people will later struggle if they want to modify it. They will probably start again from scratch and start over with new code, And it's true that we didn't focus yet on the end users. We focused more on the developers.
Yeah, on the creators. But as you said, something like Telex is quite handy because sometimes, maybe as you said, that's one of the reasons why Shopify is very successful in some areas, because you don't need a developer. And when it comes to WordPress, even if you have some basic understanding of HTML, whatever, if you're running an e-commerce store, for example, a membership website, I need this button now. I have to go back to the developer, go through all the back and forth. It's not just about money; it's also about the time. So you have to go through a process. When it's readily available, you can it's instant. So when you have the need, you can be more productive. And of course, when you have something that is instantly configurable, you're going to choose that one above something else, right?
Exactly. But if you just need a small functionality, probably for these people, it will be already enough because they have like a starter point. And what about maybe if these people, by the starter point, they are starting to learn the blog development, for example, and starting to convert into technical people because they have now something that allows them to really get a fast result, get the source code, and they can maybe even see what is happening. So if you have some basic PHP knowledge, maybe this is not a missing pattern to let the people really dig deeper. They can use it and learn from it, and then maybe just modify the functionality themselves.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, the person which I mentioned earlier, he's called Navid, I remember his name. He has developed a plugin completely with AI. And he was explaining the process. He was on our podcast, one of the few episodes, one of the previous episodes. And that is what he said. He has, of course, he knows like the logic of things, but he was never a developer. And now that he's been doing this for almost a year, yeah, AI helped him become actually like a developer because now he's understanding more and more every day the code, if there are problems, what he needs to troubleshoot. So yeah, he is learning from using AI as well, which is quite interesting. It's amazing. Apart from the WordPress AI team, have you seen anything else interesting lately in the WordPress ecosystem, like related to AI and automation?
As I mentioned, of course, the Telex. If you didn't check it out, I really recommend you to do it. And what I recently played around, which is really, really nice, cloud code running in the command line, and you're developing, for example, a plugin or your custom templates via a cursor. And in this combination, for example, you can combine it with the WordPress Studio, and it's a pretty neat development environment where you have like the vibe coding part, let's say, inside of the command line in the code editor. We know that before from the GitHub, the Copilot from Microsoft, for example. But now with Cloud Code, I really feel it much more simpler for the people to really focus on the coding part and have this in the editor together with WordPress. That's actually a nice tool.
Interesting, very interesting. And of course, you focus mostly on support, but there's a lot of overlapping between support and QA usually. Like, do you think that definitely there's some tools which what applies for support also applies for QA, but do you see like AI also being used more and more with QA and helping in automating in certain tests and certain environments?
Yeah, that definitely will happen, but it's a bit difficult to answer that because it really depends your organization and how your organization is working. I know plugin teams that, for example, never get a site copy and always try to solve cases by text. For them, maybe they will maybe go more in the automation that the support are running with AI. But other teams, for example, in my daily work, I'm taking a lot of site copies and I have to analyze something. So of course I need tools and workflows to make changes in code, to test changes. So for these kind of things, I think, let's say by internal tooling, there's a big possibility with AI, because you can use it to create like internal stuff what you really need. Let's say I do, for example, a lot of modifications in the support forum in the way what I want. Highlighting by colors, for example. If a client opened a ticket with the latest version, I give them a colorful username, because then I know that I don't have to check now if the latest version is installed. So it helps me already to reduce the possibility issues in the first 5 seconds I open the case. And for this kind of things, I can really speed up my workflows. But by the tools itself, it's a really good question. I think instead of tools, what would really help more is the context. We are always struggling to get from the client the context about the problem what they have.
Yes.
So we need more like a way to better understand what is the issue. We need a way that they can provide that easier, the logs, the stack trace, maybe environment details. Once we have that kind of things, we can start to isolate the problems, or maybe even see already like what is the issue. If you have your REST API blocked, don't expect that the plugin will maybe work, because it's relying on a functionality like REST API. Or if you want to block specific things by a security plugin, for example, happen often, maybe this is one of the reasons why it's not working. So we always need the context, but I think we are moving with this a little bit in the right direction. As I mentioned before, staging sites are a really good way to have like an overview for the supporter to see what's going on. I can safely get a copy. I don't have to destroy. I don't have the risk that I destroy something. And more great tools allowing me and the client to get my copy much faster. For example, there's a great service called InstaWP. We have a duplicator, WP all-in-one migration. So there are a lot of great tools what you can use to define your workflows. It's not really, let's say, a specific tool that is needed. I would say like more it's something in the workflow, how to solve that.
Yeah, it's interesting because in fact, good point you're mentioning the context, because this is one thing that is really troubling sometimes. Like you receive an email, like plugin is not working. It's like, okay, like from where should we start? It's good. And in a way, you don't blame the user, especially if they are not technical. They don't even know what logs are. So it's not as like they can say, okay, the plugin is not working, so let me send them the logs and explain to it. And hopefully, yeah, maybe AI can ease this process as well, no?
Exactly. Probably also in technical support, as a support engineer, you're teaching people to be technically better. I don't know how many thousand people probably started to use staging sites because I asked them to use one, or how to activate a debug logs, like getting that kind of information maybe makes the end client already like a better WordPress user. And the next time he has a problem, he's already more confident. So that's also a part of the workflow, what can integrate with the client in a way that they grow. And the next time, once you have a problem, they will give everything what you need, and you can start directly working on the case because they will remember how you solved it. And that's also really helpful then.
Yes. No, it makes a difference. In fact, even having a staging website, I look at our products, it makes a big difference. Trying to solve a problem with emails back and forth and all the text versus you have a staging website, give us access, we can reproduce the issue right away. That makes life a million times easier.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've said that AI is here to assist and not replace people. So for the support people, QA, developers, and agencies listening today, what's the right mindset to adapt so they thrive like in this AI and automation area?
Yeah. I think the most important to really see the AI more like a colleague in your team and not a competitor. So whenever you are in support, in development, QA, or testing, use it to speed up the routines what you do, but not see like the value as something that you give something lower value. The AI will actually help to give you a better value because you can write code faster, you can answer something better, and of course you have, as the person solving the problem, you have the empathy to communicate this with the project manager, with the CEO, the founder, the end clients. You can communicate this with the stakeholders and try to find this global picture, and AI will not be able to replace it. It will not make decisions, it will just follow your orders, what you give, like a computer. So I don't think so that AI will be able to replace that. So it will speed up things in the routine around it, but not in the total that you say it will develop all the code for you, it make all the testing for you. That will most likely not happen now in the next years, I guess. Maybe in future, we don't know, but if this happen in future, we might have other problems to solve and not what's happening in your code editor.
No, it's a very good way of explaining things, because, as you said, unfortunately, some people look at AI as a solution, and some people see AI as an enemy. For example, if you look at companies who use, for example, chatbot for support, where usually they had, I don't know, a team of 20, 30 people. Now they have one person only. So people might see that as an enemy. However, yes, if you are smart enough as well and ready to learn and automate more, it's a question, as you said, like discussing with the whole team and the directors and explaining like, okay, we can do this and move faster rather than replacing people, right? Because it's a tool at the end of the day.
Yes, and especially for support, what actually is viewable. Of course, the AI is now solving the easy tickets, documentation, how-tos. But now when more people are using AI to have more custom code, more custom environments, actually the work is getting more difficult, because now what is coming to you is the stuff what the AI can't solve. And then you need to have a really good trained team that can understand the code, migrations, debugging, like things with Xdebug is now basically the new routine for somebody working in WordPress support, because the cases are more difficult and you really have to debug, otherwise you don't get to the point of the issues. So I see it, as I mentioned, a colleague who do the things, but in the other hand, it's maybe also like my personal junior developer who can do the boring, let's say 30%, while I focus on the more interesting 70%.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, nowadays, I started working in IT 24, 25 years ago. And yeah, back then, support engineers were more like, some of them were a bit like script kiddies, but yeah, most of them didn't know anything in terms of development. Nowadays, many support engineers actually are almost like developers, right? They need certain knowledge.
Yes, and I can just say that in our team, basically nearly everybody working as an engineer in WordPress with us have like some kind of background in WordPress development. We have people who worked before on Codeable, for example. It's like, creating thousands of different custom solutions to people. These people really, I see them that they're actually working much better now with AI, because they have a new sense of creativity now. They can feel more motivated by finding a solution in the most fastest way, but also in the most beautiful way. And before, it's not like sending a link and that's the solution, because they really dig now deeper to find the best possible way how to solve an issue.
Interesting. So yeah, so there is hope. So actually, I would say, instead of blaming AI, kind of like blame yourself and make sure at least you are aware of the tools and make the best out of them and keep yourself informed and educated and up to date, right? Because if you do that, then of course you won't be replaced.
Exactly. If you follow that pattern, that you have the control about what happened with the AI, you have the control what is the output, never blindly trust it, analyze it if it's correct, is the hallucination or whatever. If you follow that and then you use it creatively for solve the problems, for create small helper tools, as I mentioned before, it's just another tool in your tool belt. And for that, if the people follow that way, it most likely bringing you the biggest success, because then you have everything what you need to get technically better. And then if you, for example, now never use the command line, if you follow my tip to WP plugin install, if you follow that step, maybe in 2-3 months, you might already have that knowledge for the command line to be a better WordPress engineer. That's the basic.
Yeah, you need to start from somewhere.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Marcel. Before we close this episode, is there something we forgot to mention you'd like to point out?
No, I think we have covered
Good.
everything, I think.
Thanks. And where people can find you, your business website URL or something you want to share?
You can find me with my name, tannich.com. on my personal blog, where I'm a little bit writing about support topics and debugging and AI automations. And of course, I'm LinkedIn or in Blue Sky.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Marcel, for coming. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge. It was very interesting.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
And thanks, of course, for putting this layer of hope, because as I said, unfortunately with AI, it's almost like there's this division between people like who are full AI and people who are hating it. So yeah, it's like and as you said, like you just need to do a bit of effort yourself, learn a bit more, read a bit more, and you'll get there. Thanks, Marcel. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks everyone for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next Thursday. Thanks. Thank you, Marcel. Thanks.
Thank you, Rob. Bye-bye.